The tension around the table was quiet and tense, and it could be literally cut by a knife as an uncomfortable silence was felt around them. And all of that was focused on the two people that had just come and joined them in the table. The tension was focused on both Ash and Elena, but it seems that they didn't even notice it or didn't care. The two mentioned earlier were conversing, rather sweetly I might add, with each other as they paid no mind to the stares that was given to them by their respective peers. Heck, they were so caught up in their conversation that no one dare interrupted them. Also, the fact that they were sighted so close to each and that they seemed to be so causal and sweet with each other was very unnerving for some people. Elena's crew, who has not yet seen Ash before, was looking at him from top to bottom. The girls in the group were quite shocked. That guy, Adan's nephew, was one handsome and sexy guy. Michelle and Tanya were eyeing him quite lustfully while Karen cursed her luck for the first time. If she wasn't taken, she could have at least flirted with him. Justin and Michael was quite confused. Elena was like a sister to them and they had never seen her so comfortable with boys. Most of the times when boys approached with an intention to flirt with her, they were the first to chase them off and make sure that they don't approach her ever again. That's why they were shocked and confused as she interacted with this boy. It was like they knew each for quite some time. Justin, on the other hand, was seething in anger and jealousy. Elena never acted that casual with him. Henry was also quite confused. Elena was not that casual with him or even with Adan, and that was saying something. Ash's friends and rivals, on the other hand, were feeling the same as Elena's crew. The girls who have a crush on Ash, which was practically all of them, were glaring daggers at her. Ash was never that casual or sweet with any of them, and she was so beautiful, way more beautiful than all of them combined. The boys, on the other hand, were lost. As far as they knew, Ash never showed interest in any girls they saw him interact with. Delia, on the other hand, was gaping like a fish. This Elena really looked like Relena. The smooth white hair, the elegant pale blue eyes, hell, even her calm angelic face. It was all on her, and much, much more. Something that caused her to be shocked to the core as she watched her son and her talking. The way they interact was very similar on how both Alexander and Relena used to interact. Jane, Sarah, Cynthia, and Soledad were eyeing the two in a calculative manner. Jane, already knowing about their secret relationship, was making sure that they don't go overboard with their feelings, and knowing Elena, she will be the first one to make a move. Cynthia was gazing at the two curiously. Ash, a person that she would admit that she has a small crush on, was a naive person who has no idea what romance is, while Elena, a person that she knew, was very shy with the concern of the opposite sex. Interacting like this was quite mind-boggling. Soledad was curious as well. As far as she knew, and with her short time with him, Ash never showed interest in any girls, even if they were desperately trying to flirt with him. This was the first time she saw him interact with a girl this casual, bordering to flirting. Sarah, on the other hand, has other reason. Using her expertise in reading people, she was trying to determine what kind of relationship her two favorite people have, while hiding her jealousy at how her favorite sister interact with her first crush. The people who knew about their relationship, on the other hand, were counting the moments for all hell to break loose or for things to become more interesting. Heck, the tension around the table was so unnerving that the buffet that was set up in front of them was getting devoured by them unconsciously, without them actually tasting the food. After what seems like a long time, which was actually 5 minutes, Sarah finally interrupted the two. "How long have you two known each?" Sarah asked in defeat. She still can't read the two of them. Well, technically she can't read Ash, and she could barely read Elena. That question caught everyone's attention as they looked at both Ash and Elena, as the two merely chuckled at that question. They then glanced at Sarah with disturbingly, matching smiles. "So you figured it out yet?" Ash asked cheerfully. Everyone was taken aback at Ash's cheerful tone. It was amazingly happy. Sarah, on the other hand, merely shook her head in defeat. "I can't read the two of you," Sarah admitted in defeat. The two chuckled in unison as they looked at each momentarily, sending a private message through their eyes, not telepathically, before facing Sarah and the rest. 3 years, give or take a couple of months, Elena answered, causing several interesting reaction. What? When? Where? How? Most of the group exclaimed loudly, causing Ash to stand up and glanced at the people who were drawn to the screams of their. Nothing to see here, ladies and gentle. I suggest you don't mind our overreacting friends. Ash said in a smooth and professional-like manner, causing the gathered people to disperse as fast as they gather. Ash then sat down and lightly glared at all of them. Again, for some of you, please don't raise your voices, you'll attract unwanted attention. Ash lectured, causing Elena to giggle a bit. For a guy that has a lot of charisma, you sure hate attracting people's attention. Elena commented in a chuckle, causing Ash to shake his head while smiling a bit. Every time I attracted people's attention, I always end up fixing their problems. Ash mumbled humorously, causing his traveling companions to nod unconsciously. But you attracted my attention, Elena mused, causing Ash to blush lightly. And that is the only attention I was glad to attract. Ash admitted, causing some of the group to gawk in shock. Was the two flirting? And I was very glad that I have attracted your attention. Elena replied with a giggle, causing Ash to chuckle a bit. I think I'm going to be sick. Paul and Max said at the same time, as most of the females there glared at Elena. While controlling the extreme jealousy that she was feeling right now, Sarah again tried to find answers. When and how did you two met? Sarah asked, trying to cover her jealous voice. Ash and Elena instantly reminisced about that moment, causing the two to smile brightly. It has been exactly 3 years, 4 months, 2 weeks, and 3 days since that fateful day, I supposed. Ash mused with a small smile, causing the group to look at Ash confusedly. His answer was so disturbingly precise. Elena, on the other, even though she was in the middle of Ash's storyline, can't help herself but to rest her head on Ash's shoulder, causing most of them to be startled at the bold move. Ash, on the other hand, merely wrapped his one arm over her. That move caused most of the girls to glare darkly at Elena and for the boys to be taken back at Ash's and Elena's sudden action. You remember, Elena whispered, controlling the urge to kiss Ash in front of everybody. Of course I remember, that day was the day my life changed. Ash replied silently so that she was the only one that could hear it. He then chuckled as he remembered the weird scenario during their first meeting. Although, I would have preferred to meet you without the threat of being blasted with hyper beams, Ash added in a chuckle, causing Elena to giggle and for the group to glance at them strangely. Yeah, it was a good memory, with the exception of being chases by dragonites. Elena stated with a giggle. But still, even with that, it was one of my favorite memories. Elena added with a blissful smile. Mine too, Ash commended with a smile of his own, his embrace to Elena getting tighter. Jane, sensing that the tension in the table was getting more intense because of the little position both Ash and Elena was in, decided to break tension by playing the overprotective sister card. First, get your hands off my sister. Jane demanded with a sharp tone, causing Ash to smile softly at her as he removed his arm around Elena while Elena glared slightly at her eldest sister, not removing herself from Ash's shoulder and causing Jane to sigh. Second, could you two tell us how you two met? Some of the brats here are dying to know already. Jane stated as she pointed at everyone in the table, who was glaring daggers at Elena. Heck, even Sarah was glaring at her with jealousy. For the first time in her life, she was jealous with one of her sister. The two nodded as they recalled their first meeting. If I remember correctly, I and Elena met the same day when I and my first traveling friends separate ways. Ash stated, causing Misty to raise her eyebrow. You mean you met her the same day we separated? Misty inquired curiously while spatting at the word her, which referred to Elena. Ash and Elena both nodded, not even bothering with Misty's voiced of tone towards Elena. Yeah, right after that, I met Elena. Ash said with a chuckle. Although, the way we met was very unconventional. Ash added in a humorous expression. Elena nodded as she continued their story. Yeah, very unconventional. The first time we met, Ash here saved me from a herd of dragonites. Elena exclaimed, causing her crew to grow worried. Wait, you got attacked by a herd of dragonites? Henry exclaimed worriedly as he glanced at his youngest daughter. Yes, I was. I was lucky that Ash was on the map, or else, well, let's not think about that. Elena said jokingly at her worried father. Still, It was strange for those dragonites to gather at one place, and that is not even their natural habitat. Ash stated, causing Sarah to look curious, forgetting her jealousy that she was feeling at her sister. Where did you two met again? Sarah asked, her mind running 50 miles a second. Both Ash and Elena glanced at Sarah before answering in unison. Viridian Forest, the two answered nonchalantly. And when was that? Sarah asked once again, already forming a conclusion. November 7. Why do you ask, sis? Elena answered, a bit nervous at her sister's questioning. Sarah nodded. I see. Continue on with your story. Sarah stated, causing the two and almost the rest of the group to face fault. Were all of those questions just for nothing? The secret couple regained their composure as they continued to tell them their story. Elena and I met 2 hours before me, Misty, and Brock separated. I was headed to Pallet Town when I decided to train for a while and to set up camp because it was getting dark. Ash began as he reminisced about the past. I was searching for a large field to set up camp and trained when I came upon a beautiful clearing. When I was about to approach the clearing, I saw the most beautiful thing I ever saw in my life. Ash stated, triggering the curiosity of everyone there once again. And what was that? Dawn asked out of curiosity, wanting to at least know what Ash thinks is beautiful. Her, Ash pointing at Elena, dancing in the river gracefully with the sunset behind her. Ash stated, causing Elena to blush furiously while the group eyes widen. What? The group shouted in shock. You saw that? Elena asked in absolute shock, her face was bright red. Of course I did, even when I was a naive kid back then. I still recognized beauty, and you dancing gracefully back then was the most beautiful thing I ever saw in my young life. Ash said in a chuckle, causing Elena to blush even more as she hid her face in the palm of her hands to hide her crimson face while holding the urge to kiss Ash. It was lucky that she did, because the glares that she was receiving was so deadly that if looks could kill, she will already be 6 feet under. It was pity that that scene was cut short when those dragonites suddenly arrived and attacked. I was enjoying myself so much back then. Ash said with a shook of his head. Maybe she was trespassing in the dragonites' territory. Cynthia commented in a quiet tone. That wasn't possible because I would have known if I was trespassing in a Pokemon's territory. Elena stated with a small smile. Living with a genius and pioneer of Pokemons for most of your life, you tend to pick things up from them. Elena stated with a small smile. Yeah, we did though her well. Jane stated, causing Sarah to nod, forgetting her jealousy for a split second. So what happened next? May asked, anxious to know how Ash met this girl. Easy. When the dragonites attack, Ash saved me. Elena said in a chuckle. I was so far from my Pokeballs that I was actually defenseless, and when they were about to attack me, someone pushed me to the water, saving me from their attack, and when I opened my eyes I saw Ash protecting me from the storm of electricity that blasted the dragonites, stunning them for a while. Ash then suddenly carried me away as the dragonites chased us. Elena told them with an embarrassed smile. And you know what? Ash was the first boy that actually held me like that, and it was very comfortable. Elena added, much to some of the girls and a certain idiot's dismay. How did Ash held you? Sarah asked softly and quietly. Elena merely smiled at her sister sweetly. I'll keep that to myself. Elena stated mischievously. Before Sarah could ask another question, Jane cut her off. So after you save Elena, thank you for that, by the way, what happened next? Jane asked with a curious tone. Ash and Elena looked at each other before chuckling in unison. Well, we were lucky back then that Ash found a cave and it rained, causing the dragonites to retreat. The two of us hid in the cave for the night, and to make a long story short, we instantly became friends. Elena concluded with a bright smile. The group nodded, but that did not answer any of their question. Answer this then. Why are you two so close to each other? The way you two danced back then was so sweet that it seems that you two are already a couple. Neil inquired curiously, causing the people that known about their relationship to cough a bit while the mentioned merely smiled at him. Your name is Neil, right? Ash asked while Neil merely nodded. Well, that's actually a funny story. Ash stated in a smile. 3 years ago, Your crew forced Elena to have a mandatory 6-month vacation, right? The crew nodded before sighing miserably. That was the worst 6 months of our lives in the company. Michael stated in a sullen tone, remembering how much work they have to do in order to cover for Elena. She's an archaeologist. May exclaimed, startled a bit. And she's quite good at it, I may add. Ash stated knowingly before returning at the subject at hand. When she was on that forced vacation was the same time I began my travel to Hoenn. Prior from our first meeting, we had a lot of run-ins with each other. Those run-ins made my Hoenn travel more entertaining. Ash stated in a laugh. Wait a minute, you said that you two had run-ins, right? May asked, quite shocked at that little information like the rest of the group. The two nodded in unison, causing May to bit her lower lip. Why didn't we met her back then? May inquired, curious on why she hadn't met the person that she now considers her biggest rival for Ash's heart. Elena laughed softly at that question, causing May to growl a bit. That's the funny thing about it. Ash and I always met back then in the most opportunistic moments, and that was when he's alone, separated from you guys, or when you guys are doing Arceus knows what and leaved Ash alone. Elena answered, causing May to uncharacteristically glared at Ash. And why didn't you introduce her to us? May asked in a low and dangerous tone. Easy. I had so much fun with her every time we met that I decided, for as long as I can, to have her to myself. Ash answered, causing May and anybody that he traveled with to almost cry, with the exception of Max, who was now focused on his meal. The three girls can't believe that Ash cared and liked that girl so much that he would keep her a secret from them, for more than 3 years. Sarah, on the other hand, has a different reaction. You known Ash for more than 3 years and you didn't even bother introducing him to me. Sarah exclaimed as she got to her sister's face, much to her discomfort, but she was quite used to this. Elena slowly pushed her sister away from her so that she could explain. Easy sis, if you're wondering why I didn't introduce him to anyone I know is the same reason as Ash. I love his company and I don't want to share him every time we meet. Elena stated with a sharp smile and tone while emphasizing the word love and the phrase I don't want to share him. But you could have at least introduced yourself so that we know where Ash is and with whom he was with when he suddenly disappeared during his journey in Hoenn. May stated as she leered at Elena. She didn't know her that much, but she decided that she hated her now. Elena merely smiled sharply and gazed piercingly at May, challenging her to make her move. But you were the first that grew accustomed to Ash's frequent disappearance, right? Elena commented in a voice that suggested her to back off. Wait, how did you know about Ash's frequent disappearance? Dawn asked, surprised that someone knew about Ash's disappearing act outside the group. Elena smiled mischievously as she nodded, causing all eyes to revert to the two once again. Ash sighed as he explained to them what she meant. When Elena's 6-month vacation was coming to a close, we were already very close friends. Before she departs to Southlight Island, she kind of bought me this to remember her by. Ash then bought out a beautiful locket that was shaped as a cross. And gave me this so we could at least have a bit of contact with each other, Ash said as he brought out his video phone. His friend, rivals and Elena's crew instantly looked at the phone and the locket. After a moment of silence, Justin spoke. You give him those? Justin said in shock. Elena chuckled while nodding her head. I had to give him something. He had already given me a lot of freebies during our run-ins and he gave me a necklace too, and it is more beautiful and much more expensive than the one I gave him. Elena stated as she brought out the first jewelry that Ash gave her. At the sight of the beautiful necklace, every girl's eyes all went to Elena and her necklace while every boy's eyes landed on Ash. Ash gave you that? The girls exclaimed loudly while the boys also had the same idea but a different question. How much did that cost? All the boys asked, quite startled that Ash could afford a genuine jewel. It didn't cost me anything. Ash stated with a smile. Because I carved that and any other jewels that I gave Elena with my bare hands. And to emphasize his point, he suddenly made a couple of hand gestures and poured a bit of aura in his hand, creating a foot-long blue crystal shard. That little trick caused everyone's eyes to widen a bit with the exception of Elena who already knew the trick. Ash then grabbed the nearest knife and poured small amount of aura into it and proceeded to carve the shard with such speed and skill, causing everybody there to be amazed. After a couple more stroked, Ash stopped causing some of the pieces of the crystals to be shattered together with the knife, but they did not notice that. All their eyes were focused on the magnificent blue crystal rose that Ash carved with his bare hands and with only the use of a kitchen knife no less, and a small amount of aura, but they did not know that. You see, easy. Ash then threw the crystal rose to the table so that they could all see it. Everybody instantly began analyzing the rose, and to their amazement, the crystal rose was 100% genuine and real, and it was carved right before their eyes. Wow, how could you carve a crystal with just a bread knife? Michael asked in shock. Ash chuckled as he looked at the one who asked that question. Sorry, that would remain my secret, and even if you knew that, you can't replicate it. Ash answered, but another question was thrown at him, this one coming from the twins. So you were the one that gave Elena those 8 jewelry that she so much treasured? The twin inquired in unison while Ash merely nodded. Yeah, I was the one. I carved 6 of those jewelries and 2 of them were made by a different artist. Ash stated, causing the girls that travel with them to gasp in shock. You gave her 8 jewelries? The 3 girls exclaimed in shock. Ash merely nodded, causing the 3 to simultaneously growl at Ash. Why did you give her those? The 3 asked in unison once again. Because I can only see her twice a month and that is too short for me. Ash answered, causing her crew and his friends to be shocked. What? Sarah asked, quite shocked at that statement. Like you guys said, Ash always disappeared twice a month for 2 days. Elena began in a knowing tone. And Elena only takes 2 days vacation per month. Ash added as he intertwined his hands with her below the table so no one could notice their loving gesture. Who do you think she spends it with? The 2 of them asked in unison, causing the group to be taken aback. That was quite a bombshell. The 2 chuckled one more time as they stood up and glanced each other. The music is starting again. Want to dance? Ash asked, which was answered by a nod from Elena. The 2 smiled as they walked towards the dance floor, suppressing the urge to hold hands. Before they could reach the dance floor, one question was uttered which caught their attention. What's your relationship with each other? Delia asked, already knowing the answer even if the lie. The 2 looked back at the table and smiled at Ash's mother. We're very close friend with very good benefits. They answered in unison as they entered the dance floor. Delia and Henry already knew that that was a lie, while the 5 people who knew about their relationship almost laughed at that statement. For them, those were another word for very and deeply in love with each other. Scene change. You know, that was actually not bad. Elena commented with a soft laugh as she and Ash danced merrily. You were a great actor, by the way. Ash chuckled at that compliment as he led Elena in a waltz. My drama teacher would be proud if I say so myself. Ash said humorously as he spun her around. So do you think the storm will start soon? Ash asked with a bit of eagerness in his tone. By the stares that I was receiving, it will. Elena stated knowingly as she heard the song that was about to play. I love this song. Elena stated, causing Ash to pull her even closer to him. Then let's dance with it, Ash stated as the 2 danced their way to the crowd, to avoid the eyes of their friends and family who were watching them suspiciously. Who does that punk think he is? Justin whispered with absolute discontent. Who does that girl think she is? The 3 girls, which were Ash's traveling companions, seethed in jealousy. But you got to admit, those 2 make a lovely couple. Reggie commented, earning him a couple of glares from the rest of the table. As practically all of the girls glared at Reggie, Ash and Elena were dancing as the music was played. Queen of My Heart by Westlife. Ash and Elena dance as the music continue on playing. Elena was right, this music was very melodic, which caused Ash to waltz Elena around with the best of his ability as they matched their movements with the rhythm of the music. Ash pulled Elena close to him, causing her to embrace him tightly. The continued dancing like this as the chorus was played. Ash chuckled as he heard the last lyric of the chorus of the song. It was very fitting for him because he was dancing with the queen of his heat. Ash then gently pushed Elena as he began to sing with the song, uttering the next line of the song with a smile. Queen of my heart. Elena smiled as she heard those words. Ash continued dancing as he sings the remainder of the song with a very acceptable singing voice. Elena chuckled as she heard Ash sings. His singing voice wasn't as good as some of his talent, but it was still a delight for her. Ash and Elena was lost in each other's eyes as Ash continued singing the remainder of the song and as they danced merrily, oblivious by the stares that they were receiving from the crowd and by their friends. That crowd can't help but be drawn by their loving aura while their friends merely glared at them, more specifically Elena. Ash stopped singing as he led Elena away from the sight of his friends. The queen of my heart, Ash whispered as he leaned down and kissed Elena in the lips, which she received wholeheartedly. The kiss was brief as Ash waltzed Elena around the crowd once again and led her to the table of their friends. Ash then sat her down before giving her wink. Elena nodded as she gave Ash her blessing. Ash smiled as he looked at Jane before offering her his hand. Want to dance for a while, Jane? Ash asked with a smile, shocking everyone in the table and causing Jane to sigh. I don't dance, brat. Jane started, but Ash merely smiled at her. You owe me this much. Ash stated, which confused everyone, but that seems to convince her as she accepted Ash's hands. Don't blame me if your feet are aching after this, Jane said with a small smile and a small blush. Ash chuckled as he led her to the dance floor. Scene change. So did you make a decision about my offer? Ash asked as he faced her with a passive expression. No, I haven't. You can't expect me to change my way of living in a snap of a finger, Jane said as she faced Ash with a stoic expression as well. Ash nodded as he took her hand to his and placed his hand over Jane's waist, causing her to blush a bit. What are you doing, brat? Jane asked, not that comfortable of someone holding her like this. Take your right hand and put it on my left shoulder, Ash ordered in a quiet tone. I don't do dance, I've told you that, Jane stated with an embarrassed tone. Just do it. Like I told you before, you owe me this much, Ash stated with a hard tone. Jane didn't know why, but that voice caused a cold shiver down her spine, causing her to begrudgingly do as he told her. Ash nodded as he saw Jane's hand on his shoulder. Move your left feet backward when I move my right feet forward, and when I move my right feet backward you move your left feet forward, and vice versa when I move my left feet, understand? Ash stated as he stared at Jane. Sounds easy enough, Jane stated, causing Ash to smile as he began moving slowly for Jane's sake. In a matter of seconds, the two of them began dancing in a slow pace as Ash led her to her first dance. Jane didn't know why, but she began enjoying her dance with her enemy as the music continued playing. A feeling of contentment and happiness suddenly spread through her as Ash began moving even faster, which she followed with ease. You told me you can't dance, but you're doing quite fine, Ash commented as he spun her around before pulling her closer to him. Jane was quite startled when Ash pulled her closer to him, but instantly blushed when she saw Ash's brown benevolent eyes. They were the most magnificent thing she had ever seen in her life. Those eyes were so deep that she could compare it to a black hole in space. Ash then suddenly spun her away from him before pulling her in such a way that she spins her way to Ash's arm. I have no idea what is the name of that move. Jane's face erupted bright crimson as she felt Ash's arms around her. She was so comfortable in them. She knew that she shouldn't think this way about Elena's lover, but if in any way, he was the only man that she knew that she could love, she cursed her luck that she can't steal him away because he was with her sister. If he was with any other woman, she would have no problem stealing him from them, but she will never steal him from her sister, especially from Elena. Ash then spun her around one more time so that they could be in the original position they began with. Jane then looked at Ash's eyes one more time and smiled softly as she let herself be lost in Ash's eyes. Scene change. This is a first, Michael commented, trying to contain his laughter as they saw the infamous Hunter J get loose in the eyes of someone 5 years younger than her. I'll never though I'll see the day Jane dancing with someone, Neil commented with a large grin on his face. The three girls on the other hand were all looking at Elena, expecting her to react. Unfortunately for them she didn't. So this is okay with you? Karen asked, a bit surprised that she can't sense or see any jealousy in Elena's face at what she was seeing. Elena smiled at them before nodding. I've danced with Ash like that for more times that I could count, and I cherish and love those moments. I think Jane could learn a lot with this experience. Elena stated in a knowing tone. The three nodded as they continued to watch Elena's elder sister and her close friend dance merrily. This has gotta be killing Sarah. Michelle exclaimed with a chuckle. Yeah, especially that Sarah has a crush on that Ash guy. Tanya added with a humorous smile. Hey Sarah, what do you think about this? Karen asked, but when she looked at where Sarah is, she was gone. Sarah. Scene change. Thanks for the dance, brat. Jane stated with a shy smile as she held Ash tight, not wanting to let him go, even if it was Elena who pulled them apart. Don't mention it. You actually need this to relax a bit. Ash answered nonchalantly, not even noticing Jane tightening her grip to him. Nevertheless, thanks, Jane stated again as she attempted to lean down towards Ash and capture his lips, but was prevented when a firm hand suddenly pulled her away from Ash. Jane was about to throttle the person who did that, but noticed that the said person was Sarah and she had already threw herself to Ash. Ashy, you meanie, Sarah whined as she embraced Ash tightly. Hey Sarah, Ash said, quite uncomfortable with Sarah's tight hold on him. Ashy, you meanie, you dance with my younger sister and dance with the witch, but you didn't dance with me. Sarah whined with a childish tone, trying to sound cute for Ash. Ash laughed uneasily while Jane merely glared at her younger with an annoyed expression. You do know that he was dancing with me, Jane stated with an annoyed tone. And you suck at it, if I say so myself, Sarah commented snidely. At least I'm better than you on my first time doing it, Jane retorted with a smirk. That was 10 years ago, I'm better now, Sarah said, defending her honor as a lady in front of Ash. Ash laughed uneasily as he glanced at Jane and smiled. Let's continue later. I'll dance with Sarah for a while, Ash said in an apologetic tone. Jane was about to argue but decided against it when she noticed that some people were looking at them. She and Ash knew that she was trying to keep a low profile, and if she attracted attention, then the chances of someone recognizing her would grow. Much to her dismay, she had to concede. I'll get you for this, Jane threatened before kissing Ash on the cheeks, causing Ash to blush a bit and Sarah to growl at her and for Elena to gaze sharply at her sister. That move was very uncharacteristically of her. Jane, with a proud smirk and a blushing face, retreated towards the table of shocked people. Ash shook his head as he pulled Sarah close to him, much to her delight, and began dancing with her. It was going to be a long night. Scene change. After 4 hours of dancing with other people and with each other, Ash and Elena were now outside of the ballroom walking towards their hotel, finally holding hands for the first time in hours. For Elena, it was a relief for the two of them to be out of that ballroom. The people who was staring at Ash, mostly females, were all looking at her Ash like a predator, something she won't stand for. That ball was quite interesting, Ash commented with a small smile. Yes, it was. Tomorrow would be annoying, Elena commented with a sullen tone. Ash chuckled as he glanced at Elena. I'm sorry if my attention wasn't focused on you tonight, Ash said in apology. Elena shook her head as she rested her head on his shoulder. Don't apologize, Ash, it has to be done. We need this storyline to be as perfect as possible for our sake, Elena stated with a sullen tone. Ash nodded as he suddenly picked her up, as his wings suddenly sprouted behind his back. With a one single movement of his wings, he and Elena was propelled to the sky, and with another movements of his wings, they rocketed towards their hotel. Ash, take it easy, will you? Elena said as she tightly holds onto Ash to prevent her from falling. Ash smiled at her before flying towards the hotel with such speed that it literally broke the sound barrier. Scene change. In a matter of seconds, the couple was in their hotel room as Ash gently laid Elena to their bed. When you're going to jet like that, please inform me, Elena stated as she sat up on the bed and stared at Ash. Ash smiled at her before closing the window and covering the window with the curtains. Ash then approached the door and made sure that the door was locked, and to make sure that it stayed locked, he enhanced it with his aura to make sure that he was the only one that could open it. He then made sure that both Pikachu and Koyuki were both asleep. After making sure that the two were asleep, he quickly approached the bed while taking of the jacket of his suit. Elena, seeing Ash's weird gesture, raised an eyebrow. "What are you doing, Ash?" Elena asked out of curiosity. Ash merely answered by gently pinning her to the bedpost while looking at her with eyes filled with lust. Elena was taken back at those eyes, but before she could say anything, Ash slammed his lips to her in a loving yet wild kiss. Her eyes widened when Ash began using his tongue to massage hers while he began sucking her mouth like a vacuum. Elena then closed her eyes and let Ash have his way with her and began moaning as Ash continued his assault on her mouth. After a minute of kissing, Ash pulled back with a trail of saliva from his mouth to Elena. Ash wiped the saliva from both of their mouths before taking both of her arms and pinning them over her. He then looked at her right in the eyes with passion and lust-filled eyes. "Do you want this?" Ash asked, trying to control his urge to just take her right there and then. Elena smiled at Ash as a tear of happiness rolled down from her eyes, causing Ash to be nervous a bit, but that quickly disappeared after Elena's words. "You have no idea how long I've waited, you say that?" Elena said with a sullen yet cheerful tone as she tried to move her head to kiss him but wasn't able to do so because of Ash's hold on both of her arms. "Please take me, make me yours," Elena begged, causing Ash to smile as he licked her lips before French kissing her tenderly. Ahem, wait min Frosty here later scene is not for kids, so let's leave today's chapter, but if you are really way gone already then you can check story's author page, he would love you there. Bye.